most of our employees, I think we've gotten them when we started at 18.
When they were
They're
18.
and we've kept 90% of them.
Welcome to All Things Wood Floor, brought to you by Wood Floor Business. I'm your host, Steve Diggins, team leader with Wood Pro, a division of Horizon Forest Products, and writer and technical editor for Wood Floor Business Magazine. Wood Floor Business for the wood floor brilliant, baby. Sitting down with me today, Beth and Steve Stalker of Stalker Sports Floors. The Stalkers are going to share with us their decades of experience as sports floor experts in the greater Wisconsin area. Beth's going to tell us about her roots as an artist and how her and Steve keep their extremely successful sport floor business thriving. It's a whole other side of the business that we don't even get to talk about too often, so crank it up and feel free to hit that download button. Wood Floor Business and All Things Wood Floor welcomes Beth and Steve Stalker of Stalker Sports Floors, New London, Wisconsin. Floor pros around the world, come sing it with me. Let's get to it. Beth Stalker, Steven Stalker, welcome to All Things Wood Floor.
Thank you.
You're in New London, Wisconsin?
Correct.
Or is it New Dublin? I get them confused.
They are the same.
They are.
Because you have, like Boston, you have your Irish festival, I assume?
Yes.
Correct.
At one point, it was on record of being the sixth largest St. Patty's Day parade in the United States.
That's awesome. My family's from County Kerry. My great-grandmother had the brogue, and they celebrated it every year. And, you know, every city's got it. Down in Tampa, they got the Gasparilla Parade. Boston has their Irish Festival. I looked online. It said you guys have a big old party once a year.
We do.
Yeah, but they don't have a cabbage chucker there, do they?
No, they don't have a cabbage chucker. I think if we made cabbage, my dad would have chucked it anyway. I think they had enough back at the mother country. Are you both Wisconsin Titans?
Yes.
Wisconsin
our whole lives.
Yep.
So you have to be Packers fans.
Correct.
We own them.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Listen, we're New England Patriots fans, but when we were kids, you were a Packers fan or a Giants fan. There was no New England Patriots. So my brother, to this day, won't root for the Patriots. He won't even glom onto the Super Bowl rings. So we still hung in there. So we still cheer for him. And I'm still lamenting the Drew Bledsoe Brett Favre Super Bowl where you crushed the living tar out of us. You can't, other than the helmet catch, you can't wipe that stuff out.
Right.
No.
Do you both know, I went over some of the podcasts that we had done prior, and we had Paul Nelson and Mike Hoy, and I think you know both those guys.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Because they religiously post their Packer stuff and the places they visit, and they throw you guys in there. You guys are photobombing everything.
Yeah.
All right, Beth, you're my first victim.
Because Detroit's finally winning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right, so Beth, you're my first victim. You're an artist. Tell me a little bit about that, and then can you tie it into flooring?
Yes. So I just have a natural talent, and I do have a bachelor's degree in fine art, and started doing gym floors in high school and kept doing it through college, and took one of my professors to convince me that it was a good profession and that it was a good use of my talents. And so it was kind of fun.
When we were, I was doing floors, I would donate like to my high school, but I'd cop out and they said, why don't you have the art class have a contest? And whatever kid wins, we'll let him pick. I didn't want to paint the thing because you can't vinyl everything, can you, as we've learned.
Right.
So how did that transition from there into, when did you get abducted into using it for flooring?
Once you started dating me.
See, it's always one of us guys. And Steve, how did you get in? That's a whole family thing, right? Your family's been in flooring.
Yeah, my dad started, wood floors way back when I was a baby. And, the 80s was a different 70s and 80s.
They called it Stalker and Sons sanding back then.
My dad actually started in the chemical sales business. And then just started sanding a couple floors here or there. Back in the day, if you sanded 5 or 6 gyms a year back then, because it was all with one walker, 2 walkers, that was a lot. We now do that in a week.
Yeah, that's, I think, a lot of floor guys don't understand when you say walker, and you're just behind, you get as many buddies as you have that have a sander, because you didn't have riders or whatever they call them to this day. How did they drag you into this? Where were you when you said, I think I'll do a couple floors for the weekend?
Steve just did it his whole life.
That's it.
It was, just an everyday thing. Every time there was a gym, Steve was on it.
It was always sports floor?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, how I got to start sanding so early is that one day my dad walked in and tried to figure out how my older brother, who's 9 years older than me, got so much done on a gym one day. And caught me putting a bag on a sander, sanding at 10.
There you go. Well, the first gym I ever did, my kids stopped by with my wife to look, and I look over, they're sitting on the floor racking. They were copying the other guys, and the guys kind of adopted them and said, okay. They were teaching them how to rack. And I'm standing over them with a big giant video camera going, don't get used to this. Stay away from flooring. So is Stalker Sports Floors obviously strictly sports-related flooring systems?
Correct.
No. Well, explain that, because I know in our area, the gyms I got were by luck, or I knew somebody, because they're locked up. You either have Danaher in Vermont or you have O'Sullivan in Boston, and they run into each other. They have a little border war they got. And even if you tried to get a gymnasium, they're pretty proprietary. Is that the same in your area?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of good competitors in our area. It just, like everything else, you got to work hard to be successful. And the biggest thing, it doesn't happen overnight. And you got to create your niche, which all of us have our niche. We have been extremely fortunate to have great employees.
Especially now, right? It's very difficult.
Most of our employees, I think we've gotten them when they started at 18.
When they were 18.
And we've kept 90% of them.
Yeah, I've offered to teach at Votech schools, and that just if they want somebody to come talk about the flooring section, because all of us wound up in some type of construction and glommed onto some floor person to learn it. And you don't typically learn it other than trial and error. And when you get a little good, guess what? Go start your own company.
Well, the toughest part of this world is it's not easy to start your own company, but we also try to make our guys, feel part of the family. We pay them extremely well. And we do things, outside of them.
We try to be creative to keep them.
We have everybody basically votes on a trip a year.
Oh, that's good.
We took the whole company on a trip in November. So
where was that one?
Vegas.
Oh, yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Well, so we have in Wisconsin called water parks.
Okay.
So last year we went to Kalahari Water Park where they brought their whole families. The year before that was Vegas also.
Yeah.
And they've already voted on, a couple of them already had said they want to go back to Vegas again, but we'll see. I got a secret plan.
That sounds good. I mean, if it weren't for flooring, I'd try to retire. I don't think you can retire from flooring. And my wife and I, the kids are up, they're out. What do? We found this little thing called gambling. Now, they just weeks ago opened a casino in New Hampshire. Now I'm not joking with you, there must be 7 of them. And we have Encore Boston. And then people talk about these. Well, now we're interested in these Vegas trips. So if you need a line for you, I'll come out. We'll trade. We'll trade. That brings up a question. Coming through the ranks myself and now being a distributor, I know where my customers get this stuff. We don't know about you people. You live in caves somewhere. Where do you go get all your material? Because I noticed you also have your own design on your subfloor system. It's not like Action Floor or one of the 5 proprietary things. It looks like you design and implement your own. Is that correct?
No. So one of the systems that we put in probably over 6 million plus square feet of is a system called the Scissor Lock.
Okay.
It was developed by a guy named William Betcher out of Chicago. Only bad thing about it, I was a Bear fan. And that was in the 1920s. It was brought back in the early 1980s by Connors.
Yeah.
And they brought in foam instead of hot tar. So, and then the new system we brought in with Mission Emotions and with Acer, and that's called the Acer DHEX, which is now instead of using foam, we're using a special pad that is for a little more shock absorption, a little less vibration, and we still get the great ball rebound that you get on the scissor lock. You still get the great rolling load. Usually when you get more shock, you give up rolling load and ball bounce. In this system, we don't.
The very first one we ever did, we decided to it was a YMCA. So all they cared about was somebody get in here, give us a gym, because we have, the police rent it, the local people rent it. It costs them a fortune. Well, we got this thing, we copied what was there. It was like 4 layers of roofing paper and then screeds with the rubber thrush pads on them, kind of staggered, 12-inch on center, and we nailed everything in. And we got probably 40 feet off the wall, and the athletic director showed up, and he threw us a basketball, and we dribbled it, and it died. Yep. I had a panic attack. My partner looked at me. He turned white, and we heard the athletic director go, "Hey, not that ball. Hold on." And he threw us another ball. We thought we must have just destroyed.
Oh, no.
8,000 feet in front of us. Look, we got a gym. And we followed everything in the book. It's scary. That's a lot of wood to keep from moving, et cetera. Is there a difference between when you're working it out, high school, college, recreational? Is it just the lining, the installation the same, or is the installation different?
Well, if it's a permanent floor, most of the systems are somewhat the same. There's, more than 60 different types of floor systems.
Okay.
And everybody's coming out with different ones to pass, DIN, pure, different athletic requirements. Each, believe it or not, some colleges want hard, fast floors. Right. Because that makes them faster. We always hear from people, well, we don't need a very good floor for our kindergarten, our youth, our elementaries. That's actually where you need the better performance floors, because the joints are
the physicality
developing, and the kids need it. And when we go and sell a project, we sit down, talk with the architect, mostly the owner. Most of our projects are owner direct, and you try to work with both the architect and the owner about what's best for their district. One of the reasons we like the scissor lock is so much is, like we said, we started in the sanding and finishing. The one thing that we found is wherever the scissor lock was put in, just were still holding up. They were there. It goes to the old fixed sleepers attitude. An old fixed sleeper never ever failed if you did it properly.
So one sleeper system lays out vertical, one lays horizontal, and then is there a third that's on a diagonal? Is that what the scissor is?
No, the scissor lock's on a diagonal.
The scissor's on a diagonal.
They're both on diagonals.
Yeah, both on the bottom layer and
they work. Then when the wood grows, it has a scissor look to it, so it grows towards the expanding parts of the wood.
So when the wood expands, the subfloor expands. The subfloor expands with it. Basically, the subfloor and the maple work together, unlike a plywood system where plywood and maple actually fight each other.
Yeah, you go and you do an inspection, you see these big gaps, and they're exactly 48 inches apart, and you try to explain, okay, we got a subfloor system issue here. The subsystem that you use, that's never fastened to the concrete, right? It's floating.
There's one coming, not this system. There is one coming out that will be possibly, but this system, what's unique about this system is it's all wood. So if it ever expands and buckles, once you bring that humidity back down, it will go back flat. We actually had a project in Southern Illinois where the HVC system was on reverse. So when it was supposed to be calling for dehumidification, it was adding humidity into the room.
Oh, you mean it's on reverse by accident?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. And so the floor buckled 40 feet wide, 110 foot, over 1.5 feet in the air.
Wow.
We went in, figured out what was happening with the HVC client. He was all paranoid and already had called his insurance company to replace the floor. And we said, once we slowly control the humidity, the floor will go back flat. And it did. The only thing we had to do is touch up a little bit of paint where the thresholds were.
That's great. So that's got to come down to a lot of prep, and I'm assuming this all starts with the concrete. Are these typically, is it mixed? You get existing, and then, or do you get brand new? Or is it just different every time?
We get, I would say, 70% of all of our projects are existing slabs.
Okay.
The other 30 is new. So it comes down to, when you look at the concrete, is you got to check it for levelness. That's number one.
Okay.
As we tell everybody, of our employees, we're not here to make the general happy. We're here to make sure that the floor is flat.
1/8 and 10, but you actually, you shoot. A lot of people don't go after that. They just know the rules and they break it. But we're talking about a gym floor and a lot of money. So is that what you set out? Well, it must be nice that the concrete's there. Then how do you spot the low spots, or there must be high spots, low spots?
So what we do is we take, and this is real old age, but we take a 10-foot pipe or 10-foot straight edge, and you roll it down the floor, marking the highs and lows. You move it over 5 feet, keep doing that, and you do that both directions of the concrete slab. The reason that we use the pipe or the straight edge is because we can look at that whole 10 feet, where if you use a laser or you use FM numbers, FM numbers is basically a machine that just flip-flops. It doesn't tell you anything in between. This tells us anything in between. And we tell our guys, I like 1/8 inch better than 8, or plus or minus an 1/8 inch, because I ain't the guy who has to fix the concrete.
No.
Where we see most of the issues is when saw cuts are made in the concrete. Because now what happens is the concrete dries, the saws end up curling.
Okay.
So that's where they need to grind. So we look at that. We look at how rough the slab is, things like that. Once that slab is checked and we accept it, it's now our slab.
Exactly right. You own it.
Yeah. And we own it. So everything starts from the slab up. And the other thing is, by going in, checking it the way we check it, generals know that don't even bother calling us if they think there's a problem with the slab.
So what's the leveling when you actually find, let's say, a low area, and you're rolling your pipe out and you get a check at it? What are you leveling it with? More concrete, gypcrete, leveler? What are you using? So
it depends on what type of floor it is and how it's done. So I'll give you an example. If it is a brand new floor, they're bringing in latex concrete, self-leveling it or grinding it. If it's a floor that has had old asbestos ink glue in it, the problem is not all that glue gets out of the slab.
Okay.
So you can't get it all out. So you really shouldn't grind it or do anything like that. So what we do is we come in with roll roofing to help level it off. If we can't, then we have the abatement company actually grind those areas.
Is it something that's a safety and health issue with that? I mean, how do you identify that there's asbestos? You just go by a date range, or do you know what's in there?
No, we have a very, very strong policy. You see black or brown, it has to get tested.
Okay. Just test it. Test everything.
We, almost any floor that's going to get removed by us, we have everything tested. It's testing, doesn't cost me any money. Doesn't cost, anybody money. But however, you open that floor, we have had several projects where we've gone in, had to replace the floor, and here they had already torn out part of an old asbestos floor. Ooh. So now the school's got to get shut down.
They have to have abatement. You have to have a certified abatement company come in?
Yes. You got to have an abatement company. And then, that usually is about 14 days before that gets figured out. So, we have a pretty much strict rule that we have everything checked. It's the same thing about synthetic floors. A lot of people don't know that there can be mercury in synthetic floors.
That's not good.
And while in 1984 they were supposed to have an agreement about no more mercury, we just found one in 2012.
Where'd that come? Where does it come from?
It's part of the binding agent into the product. Yep.
Ouch.
And you can actually get VCT tile now that will have asbestos in it.
We've had this problem in this area. A few years ago, they decided to do testing for all sorts of lead, et cetera, and then the rules got changed. We tried to have seminars, and no one would teach them because they were changing them by the day. And by the end, you needed an entire hazmat system, a new van, new equipment, throw it all away when you got done and start over again with a new business. It got to be absolutely ridiculous.
Every time, yeah.
Well, we've just had a project that was an insurance project. I walked in and they were drying, and I told them, there's two reasons they had on this one project, they had to stop drying because I said, no matter what, the floor is getting replaced. We can't sand it because that has lead paint.
Yep.
And lead in the finish. And they're like, no, there's no possible way. And and they had one person test it, and he goes, yeah, we don't know how to get rid of it. So you got to know what you're looking at. You just can't go in and said, because if you went and sanded that floor with lead, first of all, it's really bad for your employees.
Yes, it is.
Second of all, it's extremely bad if you're in a grade school, because you'll be cleaning and paying for cleaning that you never ever want, and it happens. And sometimes it happens because we've seen, One Shot Paint had it in its product until 1990s.
Correct.
But it's not enough to cause an issue.
Well, I heard
the old finishes in the 50s and 60s, they had it quite a bit.
We had an issue. I did a floor, old New England, 150-year-old houses, whatever, and we had respirators, everything. And later in the job, both my guys were reporting that their lips were numb and their tongue were numb. Well, we sent them down to get tested, and they had lead poisoning. So we had to shut that project down. It was in a monastery. But what we learned was, they said, with small children, it can be devastating, and with adults, it will make them severely ill. So, you can't, if it's there, can you do something about layers and barriers, go over it and move on, or does it all have to be abated? What do you do?
We tell everybody to abate it. Okay. I don't play games with it. If I know it's there, Smart. We just don't play games. We make it the abatement company's issue. And this one, basically, they replaced the floor because abating it was more expensive than the wood floor.
Let me back up a bit. Where does the design element come in from the beginning? Does the institution say, here's what we want, here's our floor, here's what we want to look like? We have a designer, or Beth, do you design that? Or where does the actual wood, the flooring, the implementation, and then the graphic artwork come in?
So I work with the district or the project. So sometimes I work with the architect. Sometimes I'm working with a superintendent or an athletic director or principal. Sometimes I'm working with the art department at the school, or like the media department at a college or something. So there's a lot of different channels to figure out who's making the decision on what the graphics are going to look like. So it's a process. Sometimes it takes back and forth meetings for a while before they decide on what they really want.
Is it always 2 1/4 strip maple, or is it something different? Or?
Well, that comes down to, specifications. It comes down to what's, right now it comes down more and more what's available right now.
Sure.
Is 1.5 inch available? Is 2 1/4 available?
What grade?
What grade is available? That's number one. Figuring out what the owner wants. Some want 1.5 inch because they like the way it expands and contracts. We prefer to install 1.5 inch personally.
Okay.
Because of our wide range of expansion and contraction in the state of Wisconsin. Others want 2 1/4. So, that comes to when you're talking with the owner right off the bat, the architect. Sometimes the mill saying, what is the availability of 1.5 inch? 1.5 inch now is more and more of a byproduct than a milling product.
And sometimes we have people who want a whiter, clear floor, other people who like the rustic look. Some of the smaller school districts maybe are in the North Woods, so they want that rustic look, where others are collegiate places or high-end places, and they want, the best of the best. And, we try to cater to whatever decision they make.
I've seen Select Better, in Maple or Easter, it's probably first grade. Yeah. In the centers, and common from the out of bounds under the bleachers.
Correct.
By the way, I tell people, when you go to a basketball game, look under the bleachers, see what you tell me you see. Sometimes it's 4 feet of piled up junk.
Well, and we always get that. Oh, you can use third grade underneath the bleachers, and it's like, okay, it's not worth having third grade and have a possibility that get mixed in.
Yeah.
No.
So if it's a second and better, we do second and better throughout the whole floor. Don't do. But we know we have one. A lot of projects where we'll do first grade in the center, wall to wall, because a lot of people stop it right in the middle. And if it's a 10,000 foot floor, 100 foot long, you might as well finish the rest of the floor so that you can use the cut whiteness of the wood in the lettering, things like that, design, and then do third grade on the outside. And people used to do that for the cost savings. Sure. Now people are doing it for the design.
Is Acer still an entity?
So a company, Acer was purchased by a company called Affinity. Okay. And it's now called Acer Wood Flooring by Affinity. Okay. They're
Infinity.
Infinity. Great company. Ex-wood guys. I've known all their owners for quite a few years. And it's been a really great relationship with us. Love their milling. Next to, Acer, they have the same great milling that Acer had. So we get more sanding jobs out of their wood than we would out of other mills.
The grading process, now with what you're involved in, typically we would be talking the MFMA, which you could do a million podcasts and no one's going to talk about it. Tell me about the MFMA.
Well, the MFMA, I think, we're a member. The MFMA is an association that's basically that we call our governing body for maple wood flooring. They help people, they'll go into what makes them different than everybody else. They'll walk into any MFMA mill and they will say, pull down this pallet, and they'll check it for grading. So they're always checking their mills for grading. And so, in the MFMA, you got first grade, second and better, third and better, third grade. Those are the 4 major use. And then they are also the owners, meaning the owners of the basketball court. If there's issues, there's somebody that they can call to do inspections on and kind of govern what is said. They check for dead spots. They'll check for expansion, whether or not the floor was put in the right moisture content, things like that. So they're a really great organization. They also help flooring people on, we call it, they have different outcomes of, like saying why not to use tape.
Okay.
Position statements. What tape will do to finish. All tape pulls finish. Sure. No matter what happened. Mm-hmm. What happens when you stain maple?
So the Maple, it's Maple Flooring Manufacturers Association. Are they part of NOFMA and NWFA now? Are they still their own thing? They're still their own. We are only members of MFMA because, it covers the gym floors. We see NAFA on the specifications quite a bit from, along with MFMA. But, they don't really govern anything because they're talking about select and better, not first grade, not second and better. Most maple for gym floors come from Wisconsin, northern Michigan. And that's because of the hardness of the maple in the growing seasons. People think it comes from Canada. It doesn't come from Canada. Well, there's quite a few that come from Canada, but they're not MFA mills. No, I know as a distributor, like I said, if we got a gym, which is super rare, for years you wouldn't get one anyway because we don't sell MFMA approved products, of which we used to do mill inspections. There were 5, maybe there's 4. There's not a lot of them, and they have to be approved. So, and then you have to be somebody that has been around long enough to be able to purchase from them or a distributor that sells that. And as a distributor, if I even have MFMA, I can't sell it to everybody off the street. It has to go to gym certified people.
Right. And they do the certification and they do the training for all of those dealers.
Yeah, you're not dealing with a living room. You're dealing with 8,000, 9,000, whatever 1,000 feet. And as we all know, that stuff wants to move from the day you start putting it down. So the design, engineering, the work, the layout, everything at that point, once you've even got the material and you're ready to move. Now, it's not 23, 30 seconds. It's not 3/4 of an inch that you're putting down.
25, 30 seconds, or 33, 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
And then back in the 60s and 70s, there's a product called 27, 30 seconds.
They move, and the tongue is moved down lower, so you get a larger surface area.
The tongue is actually the same.
It is the same. Okay.
Yeah. So 25, 30 seconds, and, it's a different tongue than 27, 30 seconds. Right. And that actually most of the 27, 30 seconds didn't have a tongue. It had just a groove. And you actually put a piece of metal spline in there.
Oh, so I'm guessing then for the work that you're starting in the middle of a gymnasium.
Correct.
Everything's starting
99% of the time, yes.
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
then we nail both directions.
Yeah, yep. So you start with a center, you plumb the baskets, and we, everything is expectations when you're talking with architects, owners, general contractors, because you're going off of backboards.
Yes.
Okay.
If the backboard isn't square, the hoop isn't where it needs to be, and the gym is out of code. Now, tell people that's important. If you're reffing junior high game, it's one thing. High school, college, you could lose your whole season over something as dumb as that.
Correct.
So what we do is we tell, we explain to them that backboard people are never going to, be 100% perfect. Okay. So we plumb the baskets. Plumbing the baskets, you basically take a laser and that you do a plumb bob off of it, and you mark that and you measure to each wall from each side. It's more important for you to look square than be square.
Correct.
So we want the lines to match up with our wood.
So we want the baskets to be up first, and then we start the wood based on where the baskets are. Right. Rather than where the wall is, because the wall may or may not be straight.
That gives you your exact center point, right? Once you get the hoops, now you've got a total. You can 3, 4, 5 off of any part of that. You can make everything square, which you could make brilliantly square. Right. I see a gym we run in. If it's an original gym, we'll run in. We'll take a drill and drill every corner first because they want it put back exactly where it is, and then we check the hoops. You go in any place, look under the hoop, and you'll find a nail hole or putty or something.
Yep.
Right.
Pray to God you find something.
Same thing at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Yes. So before all that setup, though, you probably got purchasing and delivery issues. You got to get all that material, get it priced out. It's got to be right in line with the bidding that you're working on. And then how do you get it to the job site and get all that in there? And it's not just the concrete you're talking about. It's the exterior. I've seen gyms where we're working and half a wall isn't even built yet. And New Hampshire's a lot like Wisconsin. It's almost identical. How do you get that process set up so that you can get things acclimated?
Well, first of all, I never ever trust generals that they're totally enclosed.
Right.
That's the first thing. And most generals, after they get used to you as a company, they know not to call me unless everything's ready.
Good.
We're doing one right now. The general goes, if I didn't, they said, oh, when are you going to get the HVC ready? The general goes, well, he wouldn't be coming if I didn't have it 10 days ago.
Right.
He goes, we already know that. So we don't, we know what our issues are. So you have to go in and check the project before they're ready. Sending out letters, communication with the people. They don't want you to come when it's not ready. No general wants a problem. And if you're strict on it and if you keep them notified, we just got one general who says he loves working with us, but his people hate us.
Yeah.
And that he goes, that's because I'm always calling them every week to find out what their schedule is.
That's why they call us prima donna floor guys. Everybody hates us.
Yeah.
Because we're the only ones that can come in and say, get out. Right now, whoever you are, leave. We have work to do.
But we're a lot of times at the end of a project, and if they're behind, they think we're behind. But we just started, so we're not necessarily behind. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is when we communicate with the owner, you got to do this, is you need to be totally enclosed. That means, yes, the roof has to be on.
Absolutely.
And the doors.
HVC system has to be running as best as possible. Now, with today's world of HVC, a lot of them aren't getting air conditioning or anything like that in for their way back. So we set up with the general how to do temporary, how to keep it. One of the things that we do to protect ourselves is put a hobo reader in.
Like data loggers?
Yeah. So that kind of keeps the general honest and they know it. So, and they want the job to do good or turn out well. because any problems, they're, even though we put it in, they're still having to deal with it. So it's communicating with them, explaining to them how to control humidity one way or the other. One job we just brought in misters to create humidity because we're down at 18% relative humidity. Sure. So we brought in misters to create more humidity in the room. Now we don't leave that on over the weekend because it could be a total mess. So we're planning going in Monday, racking out more wood because we have to recreate new humidity in there. So other times even though they have air conditioning, and that's the biggest issue out there, is everybody thinks air conditioning removes relative humidity, and it does not.
Thank you.
It removes absolute humidity, which is how the temperature and the absolute humidity is how you get relative. So the biggest thing when we talk to owners is, okay, do you have a chiller on it? Do you have a dehumidification system with that? If not, we actually don't want if we are in the air conditioned, we have them bring in dehumidifiers to control humidity. Because in our area, we want to be between 35 and 50, most likely 30. But we also know, that's why we like the system we put in. We also know realistically in Wisconsin, this time of year, you're in the 12 to 18%. During July, you're in the 60, 65%. So you got to build that intermediate expansion in. And we see a lot of people who do it, like you said, every 4 feet. I don't know what the intermediate expansion is going to be until we start installing.
We used to have issues, not just the environmental issue. You're still the life of that floor interested in what that slab is doing. People don't think that, it's concrete. It's done. It breathes like wood. If you heat stone and then let it cool, it'll create water. That's how pioneers survived in the desert. Make a fire, put rocks in it, let it cool all night, they'd have a bag of water. Are you testing, and how much do you test? And then are you implementing little data loggers like they do now? Is that the new thing?
So we do put, I don't mean to plug anybody. We use Wagner's.
I have one in my office. I like those. Yep.
We drill the hole in, test it. A lot of places are doing third party now, data loggers. We test it. We usually go into a gym and we'll put 4 of them in.
Are they permanent?
Yes.
Can you get a reading off of those after the floor's in?
You could do Wi-Fi in them. They have Wi-Fi, but we actually do 4, and we are on we do 1 fail, all fail.
Okay.
So if we got 3 of them at under 85 and 1 at 90, the 90 is the one we look at. So 1 fail, all fail.
Is there any chance that and I saw this in a racquetball court, this is why I'm asking. They had all these racquetball courts, and one came up like 4 feet, like you said, and we found that there was even though it was a very old concrete slab, there was a spring running under there, and when the runoff came just that time of year in just that court, it would go underneath there, blow the thing out, and go back out, and they kept putting floors over it and not addressing the situation. You could still have concrete problems.
Problem is okay. All your vapor retarders, and that's a key word, even a 99% RH retarder, okay, it's vapor, not water.
Right, there's a permeance.
If you have a spring like that, that's actually standing water. Okay. So no, the vapor barrier isn't going to protect you from that. Now we have done some different, we had a project that when we pulled up the floor, I said, this isn't water damage water. This is something else. So the architect got very upset with me. The owner got very upset with me. And they said, fine, we'll do the core drill you want done. And they called up and said, we're able to make snowballs out of the clay underneath the floor. So what they had is they didn't know they had drain that somebody cut off in the city underneath the gym.
Oh.
And then they found that. So we put in basically a pull tarp.
Okay.
It was about $3, $4 a foot. Plus then we put our vapor barrier on and have had no issues in the last 10 years.
Is a chemical sealer on concrete not typically a good idea?
No, there are some that are really good out there. Depends on, what your use of it is. So we use it, especially if it's got asbestos. We're removing asbestos. We'll use a chemical. The thing is that the flooring manufacturers won't necessarily warranty that.
Right.
So we do that, and then we do the flooring manufacturer's vapor barrier also.
There's no underlayment or barriers or layers in the framing and the flooring portion. It's all underneath all the subsystems. There's nothing that drapes over everything, right? Now you got wood on wood on wood. Okay. So
you have a vapor barrier hopefully underneath the concrete slab, and then one on top of the concrete slab. And then you start your athletic floor system from there.
Okay. And then I'm just guessing cleats, not staples. Is that typical?
We staple the subfloor.
Okay.
To each other.
And then we use flooring cleats. Staples actually hold way too tight.
Thank you. Yeah. That's all I used my whole career until I realized it was holding things too tight.
Yeah, you ever see, like you say, you see that expansion roll, we called it. We used to call it a washer roll. The reason we used to call it a washer roll, we actually use washers to make the expansion.
Yeah, my kids used to have to yank them out with pliers until somebody said, "Hey, we got a thing called weed whacker string." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!"
We got even fancier. We actually made metal strips that we thought we were really fancy.
Even better.
And then we found out, oh wait, you can use this $9 weed whacker line, and later,
went back to that.
So, it's. So if you see those open, but the floor is cupped, it means that they staple the floor.
Absolutely. Well, I've seen where we've put them in every 5 feet, put our first 2 coats of water-based finish, and the gaps are gone. And then the next day you come in to do your taping and your lining, and the gaps are back. That stuff moves when you have that much material. Are you using, you're not throwing the wood down from the center out. I assume that maybe you're racking so that you get a little additional acclimation once you're opening all the bundles?
Yeah, so, the key thing is we do rack out in front of us, check the moisture. Our guys will check it about 15, 20 times a day.
Okay.
Each spot, figure out what the average is. And like in this area, if we're in that 7 to 8%, especially this time of the year, that's where we want to put it in. We don't usually go over 9% at all. Southern Illinois, if we're installing there, we could be in the 9% because that's kind of their average.
Sure.
It depends on what they have. I'd still say 70% of the gyms that we put in have no humidification system at all. So that figures into that also.
Hey, Wood Floor Pros, this is Kim Walgren, the longtime editor of Wood Floor Business, wanting to let you know that entries are open for our 2023 Truck and Van Contest. Is your work vehicle attention-getting, immaculate, highly unusual, or is it just a complete and utter disaster? We have categories for all of those, and the contest is free to enter. Just go to woodfloorbusiness.com and put "Enter the 2023 Truck and Van Contest" into the search bar for more information. That's it for now. Let's get back to Steven's conversation with sports flooring experts Beth and Steve Stalker.
If you have anything that gets by you, or we had somebody drop some equipment on our stuff, instead of removing the board, we actually did what I would call a Dutchman, but you can do like a veneer replacement or surgical kind of work. If there's some type of, is that something you do?
So you can do a board. It's hard to do 2 boards next to each other.
Yes.
Because there's no tongue and groove to hold it. Right. So we actually have a product made up for us that's 5/16. We've then brought it to tape.
Okay.
Yep. So we make, we have, nice thing is that we live in wood country, so we can get a lot of things made for us. So we'll have a veneer made for us 2 1/4, 1.5 inches, 2.5. The reason we have 2.5 is because there is some maple that's 2.5 inches wide, and some that are 2 3/8. So we have those made, and we basically, router out the face of the board and put a new face on. And this ends up being pretty flat when nobody sees it.
So when you get to that point and you get everything going, get the gym done, what is the expansion end to end and side to side? What's your expansion that you typically have to leave?
Depends on what the maple is.
Like roughly, it's pretty big though.
Around the outside, we do 1 3/4 to 2 inches.
Because you're putting down some type of cove base.
Yep.
Or Johnson.
The cove base is 3 inches wide.
Is it steel or is it vinyl?
You can do steel, which is out there. Okay.
We typically use the vinyl. The black
thin cove base.
All right. Well, listen, I'm lazy, so when they do the install, I always tell them get 2 coats of whatever you've got. I want it, screened and vac and tacked and everything. I'll come in and do my lines. what are the first? Are you involved in the coating system part of it too? Your teams do the sanding. What's the process to get it sealed? Where do the lines come in, and then how do you wrap it up?
So we have done a lot of research on this, and we're a little different. We have seen so much where the paint chips or the finish chips, from expansion, contraction, rolling lifts on it, heavy weights, things like that. Probably 15 years ago, we all of a sudden noticed that if we line after the first coat, because that's where the schedule fit in, we didn't have any of those issues. So we actually go in, and it makes sense as we did a lot of testing on it. So we go in, we sand the floor down to 100 grits sandpaper, apply, if we're doing staining, we then water pop and apply the stain. And then let that sit and dry, and then we put the first coat on. Then we come in and buff that every place but the stain with a 100 grit screen to get it smooth, to knock off what we call knocking off the fur of the wood.
Sure.
Then we start lining from there. The reason we line after the first coat is so that the paint gets into some of the grain and wood fibers.
Okay.
Then we allow that to sit 4 to 5 days.
Want the paint to cure.
Yeah, we want the paint to dry and 100% cure out. It used to be that paint dried from the bottom to the top, just like floor finishes. Now all products dry from top to bottom.
Okay.
So you want that to be totally solid. We then come in and prep all that paint. If it's 2 inches with a buffer and what's called a yellow sand dollar.
That's what I use.
Yep. So, and the key thing is that people don't know, after 2 or 3 days, you need to re-prep the whole floor after lining, because a lot of people just go and prep the lines and not the rest of the floor. Well, the rest of the floor already started healing. All the swirl marks and everything started healing. So you do have to prep the whole entire floor. So you buff that, hand buff all the letters, logos, borders, because if you don't, you get a big mess where everything blends in.
I found the problem we had was the black lines are, they're so pretty. And then you do the white ones and the yellow ones, and you're like, I think we got to do these 6 times. Somebody taught me a lesson. Yeah. They said, hey, do all the lighter ones gray, then put your color on. And we seem to have a lot more. The
only issue you end up with that is in our area is when the floor shrinks, you see the gray.
Oh,
yeah. So you don't want that.
This is
especially underneath logos.
I was working with a guy that's what he does. He's a gym guy. He happens to work for his dad doing residential, but when he's busy, so he came to help me do local, boys club, because they don't have time for a pro. They just get somebody in if they know what they're doing. So we worked together and lining, taping, everything. And he said, listen, we have to wash this floor down. I go, oh no, we just tacked it. He goes, you did the entire key in blue paint. You know what this floor is going to look like with water-based finish after we T-bar this? Everything outside of it's going to be a blue cloud, right?
Right.
Yep.
It's all going to.
How do you avoid that?
When especially blue, you got to go around. You got to go around on your hands with the towel, wet towel, and wipe it all up.
Yeah.
You can't vinyl, right?
Red, purple.
You can't vinyl a center key. I had a school did that. I walked in, I pulled the poly, I pulled up the entire thing in the shape of the vinyl they put down. We had to prep it.
There's some new technology that's still evolving about doing that. It's possible. Some regions are it's working better than in other regions because of that expanding and contracting thing.
Beth, how do you scale out your art? Because your artwork is huge and it's artwork, it's not vinyl. How do you get that laid out so the font is where it needs to be and it's the right size and it's not falling off on you? Scale it all out?
I do scale it all out on the computer and then a vinyl cutter. And then I apply the vinyl cutter, paint it, and then pull the mask off.
Do you grid it on the floor? Do you grid it, draw it out and get gridding, or you snap lines? How do you keep that whole set? Is it one giant stencil or is it letter?
Yeah, it's one giant stencil, but then like a center logo, it might be 3 or 4 pieces, maybe more.
You get spell check with that?
Yeah, I need it.
Do you ever have a problem with that? I've seen some spell check issues.
With that.
Anybody who's been in this business that doesn't have that is lying.
Absolutely right. I've seen it. Some people don't see it for quite a while, right? You're like, hey,
right.
I think you had one. It was a Z, not an S or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. What we've had is where you're doing a coach's name.
Okay.
And we had one in, a good school of ours. that we've sanded the floor 5 times in Quincy, Illinois. They're naming it, and they misspelled the coach's name.
They did.
They did. Didn't catch it for a month.
You did it right. They did it wrong.
We did it right, but it's one of those names that we should have caught this.
Oh, no.
You know, so we had to come back in. You know, me and my wife spent 3 lovely days in Quincy over a holiday break doing it.
Yeah, but that's all right.
So you're in there. Then you get at it. You're probably using the tape machines for the arcs and
Right.
3-pointers, etc. You know, I was using chalk lines and etc. to do the outer lines, this and that. And the gym company I started working with, they had a really, I don't remember the tape we used. You could literally do an entire side court. 2 people pull the tape, set it like a chalk line, but do not roll the tape. We'd have to step onto it to get it to stick flat. Then we had a kid come through and roll it all. Boy, did that save us a lot of time. You know, you could look down the other end of the court. I had this one I did, and ours looked perfect, and theirs was 4 feet wider. They found some old line. They weren't paying attention. I go, hey, does this look good to you?
Yeah. So we mark all the lines if it's an existing gym, just like everybody else. So you mark them. And especially, I was the worst painter in the world. Still am.
I hate paint.
My dad says, you got size 13 feet, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, and, but, you know, we always explain to our people, always relook everybody's work over.
Yes.
It's easy to make mistakes.
Easy, especially when you have 12 doubles and singles badminton on the floor with 3 volleyball, 3 basketball.
And we're all human.
And you use the same blue tape.
Yeah.
Right.
That happened to us, and we looked back. I'm like, what? And you explain this. There's a right of way. These colors have a right of way. Basketball in order you pick a ball, better not be over the basketball court.
Right. And when we first started back in the 80s, there wasn't even blue tape. It was all that tan masking tape. It was really hard to see.
You have to write in the corners B for black. And yeah. Where are we? I know it gets crazy, but then one can't travel. I know I had somebody say, that we were working in an NCAA court, and they go, if this is off by half inch, and anybody calls them out on it, they could throw their whole season out. Like, these have to be 2-spec perfectly.
We always tell people, realistically, no lines are 100% 84 by 50.
Nope. But any construction site is a 1/4 inch plus or minus. You can still get away with that. But you don't want to. You want to be precise because they will measure.
Yeah, we've had courts that are, well, we have one right now. They told us to put in regulation. We did, and they're like, "Well, no, we mean elementary regulation."
What the heck is that?
Yeah, that's what we said.
I said it's still 50 by 84. No, it's not. It's 42 by 84. No, it's 50 by 84. Mm-hmm. So I had to show them that high school is 50 by 84 or 50 by 94. That's what a lot of people don't know. It can be 94 feet long.
Right.
College is 50 by 94. Pros 50 by 94.
And the 3-point arc is totally different.
3-point is different.
Correct. And changing. You have to keep up with it because it does change. Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings a question up. Does anybody ever drag you into doing private courts?
Yes.
I've done that. That I like doing. What's the number one thing everybody wants on their private court and they don't care about anything else? 3-point line. Right.
Yes. Hey, I got 1,200 square feet. Put me on 3-point. It don't work.
I had a guy, he had to open his barn door to continue the 3-point line. It was ridiculous. The guy was an NBA retired guy, and he bought a barn in New England, and we put this beautiful floor, and then he didn't care as long as the 3-point line was there. It was absolutely beautiful. That's good, though. So you get to do something it's probably a lot less pressure with something like that.
Actually, no, because you're dealing with a homeowner who doesn't quite understand construction
and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of them are pretty nice, but most cases, a lot of times when you're doing homes, you're not dealing with a guy who does a lot of gym floors.
No.
For a construction contractor or for a owner, And then you explain to the guy if you're sawing while I'm coating, that sawdust is going to get into the finish.
Yes. Is there a season? What? Is there a gym season? You're like, hey, it's gym season. Woo!
We call it basically May 15th through September 15th in our area.
Okay. Yeah. After that, what do you do?
We still do gyms.
Still do gyms?
Yeah. Especially over the last few years, we just, we've been fortunate enough to turn down quite a bit of work. So if they want us to be able to do it, they let us do it continuously through the year.
Gymnasiums typically gloss because of the friction coefficient.
Yeah. Well, gloss, is, we wish
That's
people
just tradition, I think.
Yeah. They want shininess. They want to see it shine.
Well, we talked to Mike Hoy at Canlac. We were talking about, he said typically you'll get more tack out of a glossier floor. However, these big production, gymnasium, NCAA, now they want these super mega shows and they want the floors to look really fantastic. And yet the gloss drives the camera people crazy. So now they're trying to get a satin that has a slip coefficient. Do you have to produce that, a written slip coefficient? Like this is how sticky our floor is?
If you get enough people where they complain about the floor being slippery, you do.
You do.
And for MFMA, you need to use MFMA approved products.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And, there was don't know if I should mention it. There was an NBA team where they use a satin finish. And the players complained that it was extremely slippery. And if you listen to what they stated, why they thought it was slippery, because it looked like it was worn down. And it was a brand new floor.
Brand new floor.
And so, and everybody, I had a few people say, oh, it's because, satin. No, it's not because of satin. It's because that their eyes saw it. The other thing that everybody, there's always two sides to every coin. The other issue is that the night before they had a carpet put on top of the floor and they didn't get a chance to clean it before the game started. Ooh. So that also causes static clean, which caused slipperiness.
That's serious too. They tried to fly me out to your neck of the woods once. Nike Air shoe was so popular that another company in my area tried to create a gel shoe, and they started cracking and blowing out all over gyms around the country. They couldn't get it clean. People were falling. This is NCAA. This was really ugly. And I had to go to their factory in Massachusetts, and we went into the lab and had to try everything we could to see how could we get this clean and move on from it. It killed that entire shoe line, but they were having problems with people slipping and falling. It's a serious issue. When you're working in these type of projects and you get them all wrapped up like this, how many people from start to finish are you employing on like a particular gym project?
Oh boy, probably on an average project there'll be 20 different people on it.
How long are they there?
Our project's a little different. We have people their main job is to install.
Okay.
Then we have sanders. Then we have liners. Then we have coaters. Then we have people who do base and threshold inserts.
What do you call the sanding units that they're driving? What's the name for those things?
Talkies. Riders.
Okay. So, but they're not like, hey, 60 grit, and now let's put 80 grit. Is it true that one drum is a different sandpaper than the other one?
So usually, we start our sanding a little different because I'm old.
Okay.
Old school.
Yeah, I am
too. People from Norton said I'm old and crotchety, but it works. So we actually start our sanders out at 30 grit.
Okay.
And we do that at a slight angle. The reason I use 30 grit is our people are able to move at it pretty steadily.
Yes.
We don't want to sit there and grind. We want to keep the sanders moving, so you're getting more levelness. We then go, and we do that also with our, sanding a floor under 15 years old. Usually 30 grit takes it.
Okay.
Then we come back in with going straight with a 40 grit. The reason we do 40 grit actually takes some levels off wood faster.
Right.
Okay. And then our guys will go 60 and 100. And they can do 60 on one side, 100 on the other.
Okay, so that one machine has the two different. Is it really just two big pro sanders attached to a driving unit? Or it's not?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, two 12-inch machines. We use old American Clark's
drums.
That are older, as old as I am.
Okay. Yeah. So they're drums. They're not belt sanders.
No, belt sanders have a hard time with athletic floors because of the speed.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. But do you have any problems? Well, see, with the substructure that you have and you have sound deadening systems, I would think you're not going to be so likely to have chatter, wave, resonance.
Everybody gets chatters. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody gets chatter. Chatter is...
In maple, hell yeah.
Well, you got a lot of things. First of all, you got your shock absorption in the athletic floor. Right. You have voltage. is everybody's got their air conditioner on in that area. You're not getting the proper voltage. There's, so many different things that go into it. We'll have maybe once a year, one job that has chatter and the same machines, but none of the rest have. Mm-hmm. And I see it, we get called up by people saying, oh, such and such has chatter. Okay. We go on and look at it. Yep. They have chatter. What people don't understand, if you let them play on it for about 3 months, let the little kids get on it, go on it. Then you come back and you screen and recode it and apply 2 new coats. You don't see the chatter anymore. No. Especially with oil. Well, oil or water. Mm-hmm. But, anybody in this industry that does athletic floors say they never had chatter, don't buy land from them.
No, especially something that large and the chance for it to
there's so many aspects that cause chatter.
Now, is this considered a family business?
Yes.
Just you two, or you got how many family people are involved in this thing?
Well, they got us two.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 of our sons, my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law. I have 2 nephews.
Right.
So, people that have worked with me, in
the past
for, we got one going on right now over 30 years working for us.
Wow. Now you've been doing this. You've been doing this as a couple. Was this? You were doing this before you were married, and then
Correct.
Beth, they dragged you into this. And how long have you been doing this as a couple?
Well, we have been married 36 years coming up, so about 38 years.
About 38 years.
1985-ish, 6-ish?
1984 to 85, yeah.
That's us. Class 82, you guys?
Yeah.
No, I'm 85.
Oh, wow. I'm older than you, calling yourself old. At dinner the other night, somebody said, Steve's resume is written in stone. Yeah. I can still do better floors than you. So you've been doing this that long, and it's a family business. Are there challenges as a family business? Obviously, you got business to conduct, and you also have the personal aspect of it. Is it difficult? Are there different things?
It is, but it's also great. My kids got to grow up with their grandpa doing it. Both my boys were on the job when they were babies, and we do mean babies. And my daughter was the same. My daughter used to go on the road with us all the time. So the kids, whenever we went and look at jobs, we used to have a station wagon with a play area in the back for the kids. So it's a lot of fun things, a lot of good memories. Today, back in the 80s, 70s, it wasn't that abnormal for kids to be on job sites, construction sites.
No, sure.
Now, if you have a kid that's 18, it's like, what are they doing here? That's society. That's not, it's IT people. We keep knocking the generations, younger generations, but it's not them. It's us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we have had quite a bit of youth working for us, the college kids, and we have been very blessed to have amazing people. They're all the same. I fired a lot of people. My dad said when I was 16, I hired and fired. That was my job.
Sure.
I fired a lot of my friends.
You know what's easy? Firing somebody. The hard thing is hiring somebody.
Well, back then it was easy to find a lot of people to work.
Yeah.
But it was just like, hey, you no longer work here because of this reason. And it is hard to, we've been blessed. We have a lot of people who keep looking out. Now we're getting in kids of our ex-summer help employees.
Wow. Isn't that
and which is great because they already know what we're looking for and how we're at. But their parents are like, you're going to go and do this because you need this.
How wide a net do you cast? Like, how big is your area?
Mostly Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa.
Well, that'll keep you busy. Who does the books? Do you guys have somebody do that? You come home.
Yeah, we actually have people who do our books.
Perfect.
Yeah. I do most of the bidding,
some
scheduling.
of it's family.
Yeah.
How do you have to have the trips with your clients to just get a vacation, or do you actually plan to get away every now and then?
Well, we're going to Vegas this week for a trade show, which ends up being, we'll take a day for ourselves.
Sure.
If you're running a business nowadays, there's no such thing as getting away from it because, we have a rule. The phone rings, you answer it, because if not, somebody else will.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to roll through your quick fire questions, And then here's the instructions, as I've been told them. I'm going to give you a question. I'll ping pong you back and forth. And you just give me the quickest, easiest, smoothest answer you can. And then we will talk about how great we've done today. So here we go. Beth, do you have any flooring pet peeves? Anything really bother you?
How people react. Go ahead. How people react when she's on a job site.
Yeah.
Ouch. All right. So all right, let's do this. Steve, pick one. Would you rather sand and finish or install? But you can only pick one.
Sand and finish every day of the week.
That's what I'm hearing. Beth, you prefer sand and finish or doing the artwork?
Artwork.
Each of you, if you weren't in the wood flooring industry, what do you think you'd be doing, Beth?
I would be writing knitting books.
Ooh, and what about you, Steve?
Male dancer.
There you go. All right. How about Beth, favorite flooring tool? Can't live without it.
The taper.
Steve?
Hammer.
All right. This is important. I'm going to start with Steve on this one. They're going to do the ABC Lifetime special about hardwood flooring people. It's your story. What actor plays you in this?
Chris Farley.
And Beth, who plays you in this? That was good, by the way.
I
like that one. Beth,
Sandra Bullock? I don't know.
Sandra Bullock. Absolutely. I'm seeing that. Okay. So, last question for each of you. I'll ask you both at the same time. In your home, on your property, because we always ask the who has carpet question. I'm going to skip that for you guys. In your family, your driveway, your front yard, your street, you guys line anything? Got a basketball court that you lined? Or does it all stay on the courts at home? Something in your basement? You got lined somewhere? Nerf hoops? Something?
Nope.
Nope, none of that. No, at the shop we do.
At the shop we do.
That guilty. Yeah. Guilty as charged. Well, listen, you guys have been fantastic. I'm going to let you roll, and you've answered all the questions precisely. I'm jealous. I like what you guys. Can I come volunteer to work out with you guys someday? I'm a good liner. I'll bring my gear.
We can always use an extra hand lining.
Got my own equipment.
We got extra large poles.
Hey, I have the poles. You know what I use them for this summer? I did all my patios. I used all my rods for my gymnasium work because they're so perfectly pristine. Rolled everything out, got it all squared up, and I've never seen a better patio. So these skills transfer. These skills definitely transfer. If Steve and I weren't this old, we'd be doing this forever. So,
yeah.
Listen, guys, I really appreciate taking the time to chat with me, and we will talk again soon, I'm sure.
All right, let us know.
I will. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care of yourselves.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
You can find the article Beth wrote in the February-March 2023 issue of Wood Floor Business. Don't get the magazine? All wood flooring pros can subscribe for free. Just go to woodfloorbusiness.com and click on magazine. You can also find all of our digital issues there too. If you liked this podcast, please rate and review it, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for listening.